How's it going, everyone? My name is Donovan and this is How to Happy. In this video we're going to be doing a book review of Extreme Ownership. So to start off, this book is best for those who are interested in leadership, especially from a military or business perspective. It's also good for those who want to be more productive or resilient. Difficulty to digest is pretty low. The principles are very straightforward and illustrated in a way that really brings out the concepts. The only thing you might have a little bit of trouble with are some of the military terms, but there are footnotes, at least in the copy that I had, explaining what they are. They often also explain in the actual text what those military terms mean, so you should be able to get through it just fine. Extreme Ownership is broken into 3 sections, and each section has 4 subsections. The sections are Winning the War Within, Laws of Combat, and Sustaining Victory. Within each of these sections, the 2 authors switch off talking about different principles that they've learned through being SEALs and how those principles can apply to business or life in general. Winning the War Within, as you might guess, is all about building resilience in yourself and confidence and other aspects of mentalities that you will need to be productive. Extreme Ownership, as the title suggests, is the idea that we have some amount of influence in every single interaction. No matter what the interaction is, in some way, we are a part of it. So Extreme Ownership is the idea that you take on everything that happens in your life as something that is yours alone to own. That means that you are not able to blame others for what happens or able to shift responsibility. It's all always on you, and there's something that you could have done. Some of the other concepts are checking your ego, making sure that you realize how impactful leaders can be by their actions, and getting everyone on board for belief in your mission or your goal. The next section, Laws of Combat, is more about how teams can work together efficiently. There's a couple concepts in there like simplicity or prioritize and execute, which basically means that you want to break down components to the very smallest levels and make sure your team can get on board with everything that's happening, rip out any complexity, and then get things done. The other big aspect in there is cover and move, which is the idea that teams have to work together. There's a lot of times in business or just in life where various teams that are all working together in a larger organization end up having kind of in-groups that actually are at odds with each other, so they pit themselves against each other, causing more problems. So cover and move is the idea that everyone needs to be on board and recognize that they're all part of the same team. The final section, Sustaining Victory, is a little bit more loose. It seems like a couple concepts that didn't quite fit the other 2 sections are stuffed in there, still in a way that's really useful and well organized, but it covers things like planning, making sure that you have a nice clear plan before you try to execute so that everyone knows what's happening and is on board. There's also concepts in there like leading up and down the chain, which is to say that you should be open to feedback from everyone at all times, regardless of their formal position. There's also concepts in there about being decisive and just making decisions, because you will never have all the information, and paralysis is one way to guarantee that you won't get anything done. Finally, one of the last big concepts is that discipline equals freedom, which essentially is saying that the more disciplined you are, the more free time you actually get, because when you're disciplined, you get through the things that have to be done, and that opens up space to accomplish other things that you want to, but you have to be disciplined to begin with. Now, clearly I've condensed the book in a way that's just little tiny bites and doesn't do any justice to the meat of what is contained within it. This is a book that I found really useful. I think it's fleshed out in a way that makes the examples clear, gives you very clear things to work on, and good arguments for why you should develop certain mindsets. I recommend picking up the book and trying to enact some of the ideas that are in there. Other considerations. Now, Extreme Ownership is a very heavily militarized book. There's a lot of military terms, a lot of military examples, but don't let that dissuade you from choosing to read through it, even if you're not a big military person, right? I personally don't have a lot of experience with those kinds of things, yet I found a lot of the principles and examples extremely useful and described in a way that I was able to glean a lot from it. Another big consideration is that it's very heavily centered on events that happened in the Iraq War. So if you have a very strong opinion about that, know that this book is going to be slanted towards the viewpoint of the SEALs, obviously, because they're the ones that wrote it. I don't think that they position anything in a way that's completely unfair, but it's just something to think about if you have really strong feelings about those specific events. Moving on to the applicable content. 1. A main theme in the book is personal accountability. How can you take more ownership of the events around you? What can you do to fix problems as they arise instead of complaining? 2. Leading up and down the chain of command is an idea we don't hear often. In real life, it's easy to shift blame. How can you empower those you lead and those who lead you? 3. Are you lacking discipline in any area of your life? Why? And what can you do to change that so you can acquire more freedom? That's all I've got for this video. Like I said, all in all, a pretty useful book. Just be aware that it's got a lot of military stuff in it. And if that's something that you don't like, then you may want to avoid it. Otherwise, I think it's worth picking up. That's all I've got for this video. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, throw them in the box below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. And I'll see you next time. You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.